of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is Tuesday, January 11th, 2022, and the regular meeting of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission, being conducted entirely via Zoom, is hereby called to order at 6:07 p.m. Protocol for today's meeting was previously reviewed by Corporation Counsel, who indicated to me it is compliant with the executive orders issued by the governor and fear for those watching from a remote location. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So this is a new year and our first meeting, so I welcome everybody back to a busy meeting and a busy year to come. I'll start off with a roll call of the commission. Would you please verbally indicate you are present when your name is called? Commissioner Kelly?
Present.
Commissioner Parkins?
Present.
Commissioner Laskos?
Present.
Commissioner Motto?
Here.
Commissioner Ticky?
Present.
Myself, Commissioner Harger. Alternate Commissioner Usel?
Present.
And alternate Commissioner Onofrio?
Present.
Very good. Mr. Rossetti, our administrator.
Present.
Mr. O'Neill, our assistant administrator and CEO.
Here.
Mr. Panico, our consultant.
Present.
Ms. Vernassos, our recording secretary.
Present.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to be acknowledged, Josh, from your list of participants?
Mr. Nappy's here.
Oh, there's Mr. Nappy. That's right. Thank you, Mr. Nappy.
That's usual.
Okay, I got you down. Anybody else, Mr. Rossetti?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, just a couple of points before continuing with today's agenda. Mr. Rossetti will act as the Zoom meeting host, while commissioners will be able to make comments throughout the meeting. The chair asks that you please identify yourself and wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking to make sure we're not all speaking over each other and to make sure our recording secretary is clear as to who is speaking. First agenda item is application 5274, Sign Light, 391 Bridgeport Avenue. This is for a new tenant in the Marketplace Shopping Center, and it's for a sign above its entrance and for a panel on the monument sign at the shopping center entrance. This application was first heard at our December 14th, 2021 meeting. After hearing the sign proposal, the commission just voted to table the application to allow the applicant time to revise the sign design, and due to the stripes and borders on the sign, which we felt do not meet commission regulations or zoning regulations. So is the applicant here to present a revised design? Anybody here from Sign Light, Mr. Rossetti?
Check. Yep. It should have a Damien coming on in a second.
Sure.
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Good evening, Damien.
Okay. We've made revisions, and I think I gave Josh some of the new mock-ups for preview prior to this meeting, and I'm open to all feedback and willing to do what the committee deems as the most appropriate option. How should I proceed with sharing?
I'll share the screen, Damien. This is Josh.
Great. Thanks, Josh.
Alex, you need to enable me.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay. Should be all set.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So in the revision, there were two options. This is number one. The stripes have been reduced. Instead of going all the way to the edge of the space, they're basically halved. That's number one. Number two is just the lettering F45 without any stripes at all.
Mr. O'Neill, I don't see option one as being different from what we saw back in December.
The one from December, the stripes went all the way to the edge of the building, the edge of the tenant space there.
Okay.
So this is just a shortened version of the stripes.
Oh, you know what? The, everyone's faces are sort of over. What? Let me move my. I can't get the faces out of the way. Okay, but I get the drift. Shoot. Hold on, I tapped on something and I got a tiny little screen. What the heck happened?
Probably went on 1, 2, or 3 on the,
Oh, here we go. I found the arrow to enlarge it. Okay, now I go to full screen. All right. All right, any, and the second option is to take the stripes away altogether.
Correct. Yeah, here's the second option. It's just the lettering F45.
Right. Commissioner Amato, did the sign committee see this revision at all?
Yeah, we did. We commented on the previous sign plan for the whole development there, that these were to be on a rail, just to give some consistency to the look, all the signs. I think Josh went back to the applicant to talk about that possibility, but also pointed out that that rail is not present on all the signs. And I think some of that discussion took place after Mark's Design went in with their proposed sign. I think we had that discussion after that to try to come up with a plan that would lend itself to some consistency for all the signs. And that was when we decided they should all be on a rail.
Right, but did the sign committee meet since December 14th?
We reviewed this via email.
Okay, so you have seen this. All right.
Yeah.
Is there a specific recommendation from the subcommittee?
Well, I said I had no problem with either design, the stripes or not. I think Ruth had a question about whether the stripes would be lit, and I think the answer was no, or possibly no. And I think we both wanted to see if that rail would be a possibility.
Okay, so Mr. O'Neill, has the applicant been informed of that?
Yeah, we exchanged a few emails today. Damien, I'm not sure if you heard anything back from the sign company.
I have not, so I'm fine with paying for a rail in addition. Again, if we can keep the abbreviated stripes and you prefer them not illuminated and just have the lettering illuminated, I'm fine with that option as well. I'm just not sure. I'm waiting for Signlight to let me know if they were able to fabricate the rails or 701 LLC did the rails. I don't know where the rails came from, so that's the next step, I guess.
Okay, Commissioner Parkins, did you have some comments about the illumination that you wanted to convey?
Yeah, I just questioned whether the stripes would be illuminated. My preference would be to not have them illuminated. But now looking at the bottom of those stripes, which are both white, I'm just not sure how they're going to hold up to the being placed on a rail. So I'm not sure if the rail is going to actually work in this situation because of those two white bottom strips that are as part of the logo. So, I mean, I certainly wouldn't suggest that they be eliminated because that's part of their logo. And I think they're being very reasonable in trying to come to a compromise with us. So,
How about leaving the stripes, giving up the rail, and just having the F45 illuminated?
I would be fine with that if that would
What
also.
rail are you referring to?
It's
I can share my screen. You
Right.
have to give me a minute. I
Okay.
can show you another example.
I
Something.
think it's the rail that the sign goes on.
I thought that was the way that all the signs were attached to the,
Not all of them.
I'm
Can
not even
everybody
sure
see
the
my
lettering is
screen now?
attached.
Big Y?
yeah, that's big wide. Those are individually attached.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go down. So if you see here,
Goodwill.
Yeah, I'd like
Yeah,
to
we'll
see
just
it
try to
in
get a little
relation to
closer.
what's around it.
yeah, so there's a little rail underneath Goodwill. See that?
Yep. Like a little
And if I
shelf.
go a little further down, If this will let me.
Is that rail functional?
I think it was
don't-
more of a design element.
Yeah, it's more of a facade. The taco code does not have a rail, so it's usually the larger tenant spaces are the signs that don't have the rail.
Mhm.
Like the liquor store here, which is gone, I think, does not have a rail. And if you go a little further down, the urgent care has a rail, so does the spa. My salon does not on the right.
Mhm.
So the rail is like an underlining?
Correct.
Like a little shelf, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the Marks of Design sign that Commissioner Motto was talking about. And then next to it, you see Great Clips has the rail underneath.
Mhm.
So they're all that tan beige sort of color.
And
But
which
it's-
storefront would this occupy?
So this would be down at the next to Taco Co. If I can get down there, I'll show you.
Don't run that person over.
Too late. They would be going to the right of the Taco Co. over here where this
Yeah.
door is.
Hey,
That's
Josh,
the subject proposal.
does the Exhale Studio, which is out of business, but their sign's still there on the left side? I don't know if that has a rail either. So it's not a balanced optic, which that's, Josh and I were having a discussion, kind of looking at all the options. So again, I'll go with whatever the committee thinks is the best option.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't been out there to see if, I looked in our permits to see if Exhale, the yoga place had a rail. I couldn't figure that out. So do you know for a fact if it does or not?
I could pull it up on my phone. If you guys talk amongst yourselves, I should be able to whip this up in about a second or two. Let's see.
So urgent care does not, correct?
There is a rail on urgent care.
There is.
But it's sort of, so they have their little, the cross logo
Yeah.
next to it. And then the urgent care has the rail underneath.
Is the
Oh, okay. Got it.
storefront where Billionaires and Spa is the same width as where this tenant would go?
Yeah, it looks, like it's about the same.
Yeah. Well, at least that would be balanced. with
Yeah,
the
so there's
rest
this storefront and then the left and right of the Taco Co. section are,
of
we're
them.
trying to figure out if that's going to be balanced.
I
But you see
apologize, I
my
can't find
point?
Exhale.
Do you see my point about the bottom? I mean, I guess we could leave it up to the sign maker to determine whether the white stripe will show up.
White on white.
Yeah, well, it won't really be white on white because there's got to be some space between the shelf. It's not like it sits on the shelf. If you look at urgent care, it's not sitting on the shelf. There is some, I believe, some.
Yeah,
Just-
the rail and the letters are attached separately. It's not like the letters are resting on top of the rail.
Yeah,
Tell you the truth, Taco Company looks empty without a rail under it. To me, seeing that Goodwill has a big storefront in front of it, and it does. So,
you know, it's
that's
a nice addition to the.
yeah, it's like putting up above your walls. What's the crown molding?
Yeah,
Finishing off
So-
your room.
And the question I had to committee, do you know if this is a landlord responsibility or a sign maker? Because it looks like it's in spec with the actual building versus the sign, which is on the tenants. So I'm just curious if Blakeman and Berkowitz are the people that fabricated these. I don't even know if they could be sourced. That's I guess the logistics behind it.
I vaguely remember that it was talked over with the sign designer. Is anybody else? Ruth, do you remember?
I don't. I don't. I would be guessing. I would think that it would be the landlord because that's the overall sign design came through the PDD, right?
Mhm.
Not through the businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Damon, did you find anything on your phone?
I did not. I don't have Exhale. It's so tucked in that corner. I thought I had it. Kindred kind of takes over the image.
And you
everything.
said that they're out of business now? The
Exhale
yoga?
closed during COVID. Yes.
all right,
They were
well,
right in that
whoever moves
corner.
in there, we could just require the new sign to have the ledge, so.
Exactly. Okay, but on the, Josh, move down to some of the ones that have the ledge, that rail.
Okay.
But the one under urgent care, that's just an architectural feature. That is not illuminated at all internal. No,
No,
The rail is not.
No,
right. So on the option 1 or 2, whatever shows that white, that's the rail. Or is that part of the logo?
that's the logo.
Okay,
That's
Aye.
the logo.
so number 1 is without the rail. Scroll up and let's see number 2.
Yep, number 2 is the same, just without the stripes on the side. There's no
Stripes on
rail.
the side. Is there a way that number 1 could be implemented with a rail underneath?
For the drawing, for the mock-up,
Mhm.
I just got this communication an hour or 2 ago, so I tried
Mhm.
to press it. It's a graphic design issue. I got to pay a guy to literally put
Yeah.
a stripe in there to simulate. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
we can use theater of the mind a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But
But
No,
I mean-
I think, I was concerned that the white stripes would get lost, but knowing that there is some space between the bottom of the sign and the ledge, I think it'll be okay.
Mhm. So Ruth, you're talking
Because
about,
you really can't treat those bottom pieces, those 2 pieces as part of a rail, because, and the other signs, the rail stops at the end of the text of the sign. It starts and stops with the length of the text. This so-called rail pieces are beyond the text, so I don't think you really want to, it's like apples and pears, you know?
Where are you-
Notice urgent care, there's a rail. The billionaire and spas, and the rail stops at the text, which is fine.
Yep.
Now, you put this sign next to it, you know, I think I would just simply treat those 2 bars as part of the sign and don't
Yeah.
think of it as a rail,
Me too.
because it really isn't.
No, we were not considering it as part of the rail.
Yeah,
we just don't know what word to call it. It's an underline.
it's part of the
Shelf.
sign.
A shelf,
It's
if
just
you
It's a
will.
part of
ledge, yeah, it's a
the
ledge.
ledge. Yeah,
Ledge, line, yeah.
okay, but would the
I
ledge
think it's
go,
much better than the one we saw the last time going the full length of the frontage.
Yeah, so the question is, do we want to have those 2 bars illuminated or just have the F45 illuminated?
What do they typically do?
Typically, we illuminate the whole thing, but again, if we don't illuminate it, that saves me some money, so I'm not opposed to it. I can get that approved. It's just up to what you think the aesthetic would be best for the plaza. I mean, Arugas has a big bright sign, so it's not like we'll be the only bright sign in the plaza, for sure.
is
Those-
that?
Those elements on both sides of the F45, that is a black panel, a red panel, and a white panel, is that it?
It's navy blue, red, and white. Yep,
Navy
red, white, and
blue.
blue. Yep.
Okay. But that's really, in my estimation, that's part of the sign.
Mhm.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
panel within the panel, and part of that panel is taken up by the F45.
But
Right,
do you think it should be illuminated, Tony, is the question?
Offhand, I don't think it ought to be illuminated.
how is that walk-in clinic? Is that medical symbol, is that illuminated, Josh? AFC?
I believe just the lettering
AFC.
AFC and urgent care are illuminated.
Mhm.
Yeah, but the AFC is part of the sign.
Yeah,
It's
Right.
AFC urgent care.
It's the name.
Right, it's part of the name.
I think it'll look fine with just having the F45 illuminated. The stripes, the red, white, and blue will certainly show up during the day.
Mhm.
And at night, the F45 will probably shine enough light that the stripes will still be visible. They just won't be backlit.
I
Right.
agree, Ruth.
And how about the length of the ledge? Is it only under F45, correct?
I think it should go to the end of the sign, which would include the stripes. in
I
my mind.
agree.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
All right, so
agree.
we have, I would say, proposed number 3 would have the ledge going all the way left to right from the outside edge of the square block on the left to the outside edge of the square block on the right. And just the F45 is illuminated. Does that sound right?
Yes.
That
Okay.
sounds like, that's it.
Okie dokie. So is there anyone that wants to make a motion to approve application 5274 with the specifications being F45 is illuminated and a ledge is added underneath from the left side of the red, white, and blue block to the right side of the red and white, blue block.
Say that fast a few times.
No,
I'll
thanks.
make that motion.
Okay, so there's a motion from Commissioner Parkins. Is there a second?
I'll second.
it.
Go ahead, Peter.
Who was-
Commissioner
who
Laskos.
was Laskos? Okay, thank you, Commissioner Laskos. All right. So on the motion to approve application 5274 with the conditions expressed about the ledge going all the way across and just F45 being what would be illuminated, made by Commissioner Parkins, seconded by Commissioner Laskos. I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, the motion is approved by a vote of 6-0. Thank you, Damon. Good luck
Thank you,
with
everyone.
your business.
Yep, I'll see you guys around town. Please
Okay.
stop by and say hi.
Let us
Thanks.
know when you're opening. We'll stop in.
March, April, you'll see us. We'll be around for sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Come in and do
All right.
some weights.
Absolutely. Let's go. Bye.
All right. Next is new business. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I'll
To
make that
discuss-
motion.
Let me just mention, it's to discuss the legal matter for agenda item A under new business. So there's a motion to go into executive session from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second?
Commissioner Parkins will second.
Okay, second from Commissioner Parkins. So on the motion made by Commissioner Kelly, seconded by Commissioner Parkins, do a roll call. Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So Mr. Rossetti will be doing something and we have to sign in.
Okay, just
We log out of this, I guess.
Yes,
That's
you do.
correct. Yep.
Oh, you have to log out first?
I thought you
Yep.
said we didn't.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I can hear everybody, so,
Click on the other link, join the other meeting. You're going to leave this meeting completely.
Right, automatically, correct?
Yes, it will log you out of this meeting. Yep.
Okay.
Automatically.
join another meeting was on the email. Is that what you're referring to?
It's the second item. Yep. Just click
Yeah.
on that second link.
Okay.
Dan's got it. Fran's got it.
I'm out of something here. I can't move anything.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing that too.
Cancel.
Ay, ay, ay.
No. Leave meeting. Nothing's happening. Can't seem to get out of this old other screen.
I can't get out either.
Okay, all right, I'm good.
Boy. Go lay down. All right, we got everybody. Let's see. Charlie, Ruth, Pete. Oh, there's Steve's there. Dan. John. Schultz. Josh. Tony. Sarah. Okay. All right, looks like we're all back, right? Are we ready to go, Mr. Rossetti?
Looks like it. Let's see. Miss anybody? Did I miss Elaine? No, Elaine's here.
I see everybody. I went through
Yeah.
my-
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Are we live again? All right, thank you, everyone. Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
Make that motion.
Motion to come out of executive session from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second?
Commissioner Parkins will second.
Okay, there's a motion, a second from Commissioner Parkins. So on the motion to come out of executive session made by Commissioner Kelly and seconded by Commissioner Parkins, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiggy,
Aye.
Commissioner Lascos,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, and I'll note for the record, no motions were made, no votes were taken during the executive session. All right, moving on. First item under new business is application 2110 Riverside Commercial, Riverside Retail Center LLC, 131 Canal Street, Assessors Map 130, Lot 2, for modification of special exception application number 15-17 in the Riverfront District RFD zone. This proposal intended to convert second floor office space in an existing two-story retail commercial building into 8 apartments with on-site parking. Does staff or Attorney Teodoso wish to comment on this?
Was that not the topic we were just discussing?
Yes, it was, but is there anything further seen for the public if it's on the agenda?
I have no need for any further discussion.
Okay, that's fine. All right, staff, you concur the same?
Nothing else.
Okay, all right, so we'll move on now to,
You need to just make note that no votes were taken in
I did.
executive session. Oh, okay.
She did.
doesn't hurt to mention it. Okay, next is item B. Forthcoming application 22-XX, Mass Property Zone Change, City of Shelton at Constitution Boulevard North, Assessors Map 104, lots 25 to 32, Map 105, lots 7 to 9 and 11, for a zone change in text amendments in an R1 zone and a PDD 11 to IA-1 for discussion. So Attorney Teodoso, Mr. Rossetti, Mr. Panico, would you want to
Yes.
begin discussion on this matter?
Yes, we will. I'll let Fran speak up first.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the board aware that when the board is ready to move forward with its intended change, that for those of you who have never done this, I know some of you are veterans of the board, essentially the city needs to follow the same protocol that an applicant would from the procedural part, i.e. the notification to property owners, the notification to the newspapers, the presentation of the various maps that'll be necessary, the referrals to the various committees, and the consideration that you would give any zone change needs to be put on the record for this zone change also. And I sit ready, willing, and able to help you with that protocol and that timetable when you are ready to move forward.
Okay, very good. We do have to, on those referrals to other agencies, they do have a 30-day comment period, or 30 days to make comments.
Chairwoman, this is Commissioner Ticky.
Mm-hmm.
Question for the attorney, and it would also include notification of property abutters or those that are within a certain area of the property?
Right. The easiest way to understand what you're doing is to just consider the city an applicant. And if you had an applicant before you, the same protocol you require of the applicant, you have to require of the city.
Mm-hmm.
And if
One disadvantage of the city being the applicant as opposed to being initiated by the commission.
Mhm.
The commission initiated it.
Mhm.
Notification of property owners would not be required. Right?
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Commissioner Ticky, did you have something else?
yes, oh, and then who best would be the best contact then? Is it the Planning and Zoning Office if members of the public had questions about where this is at in process?
I would think so.
Yeah, planning and zoning is going to be the place to be.
Mm-hmm. So any questions can be referred to Mr. Rossetti.
Yes, I think it ought to be clear, the planning and zoning staff is assisting in the compilation of the proposed amendments and what they should cover, et cetera, what the content of that new zone ought to be, and so on. So we are in fact drafting the proposed amendments.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
I'm certain staff would be more than happy to address any questions that anyone may have, whether it be commissioners or public.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so Mr. Rossetti, do you have any comments for us?
We sure do. We sure
Right.
do. I know.
Before you start, could you just clarify, is there an application number for this yet?
No, there is not. That's hence the 2 X's. It's just a placeholder. There will be shortly, hopefully at
Okay.
the conclusion of this kind of informal discussion.
Okay, so-
Commissioner Ticky, I know you were not part of the zoning subcommittee with these initial discussions, but staff has met with Mr. Panico, Mr. Teodosio, Commissioners Parkins, Motto, Commissioner Wodomski a couple of times over the past year, and met with the mayor's office to discuss the future development for the Moss property and the general construction for this area. And just to get everybody on the same page, let me pull this up. All right. We have Route 8, South, North, the Wiffle Ball Factory, Constitution Boulevard coming up through here, and it dead ends at this T intersection. I assume everybody in town has at some point in time been at this here intersection. The proposal is for this road to eventually come all the way up here towards the Shelton Dog Park. In the middle, there is a piece commonly known as the Moss property, which was intended to be rezoned for industrial / light industrial uses that the zoning subcommittee staff and along with the plan of conservation and development have gone through to figure out what best fits this area. What would we like to see this developed as?
Can I just interject something, Mr. Rossetti? Just
Sure.
want to make sure that everyone's clear that that particular property known as the Mass property that is city-owned currently is known as, is a planned development district zone, PDD number 11, as shown on the map. So
That's
that
correct.
we're going
So-
to zone change to better zone it for something that's more applies to the future use of it.
Yep. So
I
I'm
think
about
that's
to
a good
get to
point,
that.
Madam Chairman. People don't realize there are two components to a PDD, the basic zoning and the development plans. The development plans are an administrative approval, and therefore the city can put a time limit on it beyond which those plans are null and void. However, zoning is an action that can only be undone by a legislative action of the commission after a public hearing. That step never took place. So while the underlying detailed development plans that were conceived for the old city trust proposal have long since expired, the underlying PDD number 11 is still in existence. And what we are looking at is how do we take and get rid of PDD number 11 and put it into an appropriate zone that will accommodate the type of economic and industrial development that we are anticipating.
Okay.
So to build on top of Mr. Panico's comments, this is the Moss property currently zoned as PDD 11. Our recommendation to the commission, which there will be a report online. You will all have time to read through it and wrap your brains around it, is to remove this PDD and to change this piece of property along with any other necessary pieces of property that the city recommends to a IA1 zone. Again, that's an IA1 zone. The reason for that is because when you look at our zoning map, the IA1 zone is currently not used at all anywhere in the city. And
Can
so,
I interject, Alex?
Yep.
By way of background, the only reason that the IA1 zone was ever created was years ago, there was an industrial area in existence on both sides of Route 110 as you approach the town of Monroe. And rather than getting rid of it completely, the commission devised a very restrictive type of zone, the IA1 zone. And over time, the commission managed to get rid of the industrial zone of that property up there, but the classification IA1 is still available in our regulations.
So rather than reinvent the wheel, why not reuse something that's already existing, such as this IA1 zone, which when upon looking at it is relatively close to what we're hoping to achieve here with the necessary text changes. Granted, there are a number of them, but we're not reinventing the wheel, as I previously said.
Alex, you're fading out a little bit,
Sorry about that. Is that better?
much better.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry. Just rather than reinvent the wheel with a new zone and all new text changes and new schedules of lot standards and use standards, we thought it would be better to reuse the IA1 zone because it's currently not being used. And upon looking at it, it fit moderately well with our intent, which we will show you in this report. And let me just backtrack for 1 second. So the general goal of this zone change is to allow for light industrial facilities with necessary accessory uses in that area. So I think a great example of what we've kind of talked about it at a pretty great deal are these facilities down here on Waterview Drive. These are larger corporations. They have a blend of office, warehousing, manufacturing, assembly, perhaps, research and development, essentially almost surrounded by residential development. And we, at least on a zoning level, don't really hear any complaints. They're not making a ton of noise. Everything is confined. They're pretty harmonious neighbors. So we're often comparing Constitution South to Constitution North, and what uses are permitted here and how could we mimic that on the north side of Route 8, which really is not that far away. Again, this is the piece of property that we are referring to. And one of the key things the zoning subcommittee, and ourselves wanted to keep in mind is that there are existing residential properties all around here. And how do we reduce the impact that they will have as this road comes through and as these corporations fill in? And one of the biggest things we looked at was keeping the setbacks strong, 75 feet, 100 feet away from any residential property, not allowing parking to, violate that setback, not allow lighting. They really have to be developed inside the lot, and to mimic similar types of uses down on Constitution South. Mr. Panico has graciously typed up a report for us that will be online, and we'll also just email it to you guys to read through, and I'll also supply some supportive material to understand
Alex,
what
you're breaking up.
Hello.
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit.
Okay. Mr. Panico has typed up this report so that you all can read through it and see what changes we're proposing to make to Schedule A and to Schedule B. And I will also supply some supportive material in addition to that. And then if the commission is in favor of kind of how we're going, we will begin the process of that 30-day time clock of sending out notices and getting the public hearing set up. Now, I know this is relatively vague, but it is somewhat detailed, so I want to give you guys all time to read through it. Are there any initial questions from the commissioners?
I think it's important to point out that Alex and the subcommittee did a lot of work and were able to narrow it down to what it is that we want to do. We got rid of all the peripheral stuff. So hopefully it satisfies all the concerns that the subcommittee has laid out, and that their work in turn will be validated by the commission.
Mm-hmm. To tell you the truth, this is not a very long report. It's not like resolutions that we need to.
No,
look at.
not yet.
Yeah, no,
We'll
but
end up doing that.
I'm just saying, since we're all present, why can't we go through this? It's large type and it's big margins, and it's really, I think everybody could definitely read it more and come back.
Maybe we can just highlight some of the things if
Definitely.
I don't know if well, Alex, you have it up. You can show it, right, Al?
Yeah, he has it up.
Okay.
So
The
roll
first-
up to the page
The first
one.
page is really mostly background,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And why we have what we have and why we're doing what we're doing. The second page, where those asterisks, those are the uses that were boiled down to by Alex and the subcommittee in terms of what works, what will work in the zone and what should not go in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what we're going to do then is take those and slot them in with the correct indication of whether it's permitted by site plan or permitted by special permit, special.
All right. So for
Right.
instance,
Gotcha.
a bullet point, Mr. Panico, bullet point number 2, factory stores.
Yes.
What is your,
Okay, the history on that is a lot of industries like to have a little corner where they sell some of their product.
Mhm,
Just as Timex used to have a place where you could go in and buy a Timex watch.
mhm.
And it's likely that you might have somebody wanting to come in and say, hey, we make these little doodads and, we like to have the ability to sell a few if somebody comes through the door and wants to buy one.
Yeah,
That's-
Modern Plastics does that on Long Hill Crossroads.
I'm sorry?
Modern Plastics does that on Long Hill Crossroads.
Oh, okay.
Facility that they use.
And this would say whether or not it's a permitted use, and what it's going to say in that zone is that's a use that's permitted by a special exception, so that you have an opportunity to look at it in its setting, just in case it doesn't fit.
Mhm.
Doesn't
Yeah.
fit, you
So
don't need the special exception.
If that was to be part of an application, it would be something that would come back before the commission for us to review.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Right, but it's a store associated with the business, not just an independent retail store.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. It might happen at the time an applicant comes in to build his facility. He might tell you right up front, we're going to have a factory store in this corner, 1,500 square feet, and that's just to accommodate that particular thing. Or it might be an afterthought, in which case it'll come in as a separate application.
Mhm. All right. How about bullet number 3, where it's that business and
Business and
professional office?
professional offices. That's the
That's-
general business and professional office category that accommodates any kind of office building out in our industrial zones, LIPs and all the others. If you want to go out and build a 3 or 4 story office building, that's the line. One of those lines is where you would be filing under.
Mhm. Okay. And why would we want to have number 4? Why are you including that?
Okay. Almost, that is permitted in almost all of our industrial zones. And the reason being is if you have a substantial industrial development, very often they do their own trucking in and out. And they like to be able, some of them, the larger ones, like to be able to repair their own vehicles. And this gives them the ability to do that.
Okay. And the next bullet?
Warehousing and storage.
No, the one above it, accessory and subordinate warehousing.
Yes,
Yeah.
accessory and subordinate motor vehicle repair allows them to apply for and for you to approve it. Note those words, accessory and subordinate. It can't be the primary use, and it's got to be related to the principal use.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
Alright.
just before we go too crazy, this is all gonna have to be discussed at a public hearing. So
Yes.
Right.
there's a lot of detail that we're gonna have to go into here, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
But I think this is good so that as the commissioners are reading it, they understand what some of this language is referring to.
Fair enough.
And those use lines all exist in our regulations now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a decision that they're going to be permitted in the IA1 zone.
Mm-hmm. The last 3 bullets, I don't see anything that's really out of line or not. People wouldn't be able to understand.
Now, mind you, those are the only uses that will be allowed in this zone.
Mm-hmm.
So there won't be any shopping centers. There won't be any multifamily residential. Those are just not permitted uses.
No
These are
gas
the permitted
station.
uses.
Yeah.
So
No gas
just-
stations, no fast food restaurants, nothing.
No,
No.
we will not be allowing restaurants. The only offshoot of that, however, is we are proposing a new use line that we're calling cafeterias. Cafeterias and other food service facilities, because very, very often a large scale industrial or office building might have a cafeteria for their workers.
Mm-hmm.
And since we no longer allow restaurants in this zone, we had to be sure that we can accommodate it. We
Right.
don't worry about it in the other zones because all the other industrial zones also allow restaurants.
That's a very commonplace occurrence. I was
Yes.
sitting in a waiting room yesterday and overheard someone say, boy, have you gone here to XYZ building? They have a cafeteria that's open to the public, as well as being one that the occupants of the building use.
We know that happens.
Cinto properties have that.
Oh, yeah,
We try to discourage it, but as long as they don't advertise it, it's not a problem.
right. Yeah, okay. All right, anything else on this particular page that you need to point out in specific? It's pretty much-
Just, Tony, can I mention one important
Absolutely. You
thing?
want to take care of warehousing?
Just right before that, you quickly mentioned, what did you mention? Residential aspects. One of the key reasons why we picked an industrial zone and not a PDD or other commercial zone is that there are no residential uses allowed in industrial zones. In
Correct.
addition to that, there are no 830G applications are not allowed in residential zones.
That's a
So we
key
wanted
point.
to be very exclusive of not permitting any type of residential activity in this zone and other industrial zones to make sure there is no confusion that, oh, well, you allow a residential home office in an industrial zone if it's, one thing or the other.
That's
There's
absolutely.
nothing
that's an excellent point,
residential
Alex.
permitted in this zone or other industrial zones, and that is intentional. So hopefully we can steer clear of any potential, and that's another reason why we steered clear of the PDD, because I'm sure a creative attorney like Mr. Thomas over the river could say, you guys have permitted residential uses in PDDs.
Yeah.
Why not here? Well, this isn't a PDD. This is an industrial zone.
That's an excellent point, because you don't know what's around the corner. We build this big fancy road going up there, and all of a sudden some nonprofit group decides they want to come in and build 200 units of affordable housing.
Mhm.
And this keeps the door completely shut to that.
Right. Alex, so did I not hear you right? You said 830Gs are not permitted in residential zone. Did you mean?
industrial. He said industrial zone.
No,
Right.
No, he said
industrial.
residential, he meant industrial.
Yes,
I thought
exactly.
you said industrial. Okay.
And leading into what Mr. Panico talked about, if somebody else came in, I'm a big proponent, as you know, being a dog owner, that for adequate facilities for this particular, for them, and I use a place that's an hour and 10 minutes away. That's a number of acres, and it's a pet resort. Boy, it would be great to have one in Shelton that had the acreage and be a clone of what we use up in Glastonbury. And
Yeah, but we don't want to
but
give up
that's
prime
not appropriate.
industrial land.
No, but that's the whole thing, for someone to think, oh, well, gee, why not have a dog walk or a pet resort in the woods? No, that's not what this is intended for. So,
We have so many acres of dedicated open space in the city of Shelton. That type of use should be infiltrated into one of those open space areas,
yeah, exactly.
not use up valuable economic development land.
Absolutely. All right, anything else as you scroll through this?
Well, Alex and I have been sorting out this whole business about warehousing, storage, and distribution with or without wholesale sales. And that's why we have 2 or 3 lines that we're conceiving to handle that. But it's very, very specifically controlled in many cases by a special exception as well.
Okay. All right.
Can I just say, Alex, you were saying we would have, we don't need to go through all of this tonight in detail, but I expect we do need to go through it in detail as a commission, since we are the applicant or we're representing the city. We need to all be on the same page and really understand this before we
Yes.
go to public hearing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
that's-
absolutely. Yep.
You bring
I
up
was just gonna ask-
an excellent point, Elaine.
Yeah.
Nothing disturbs me more than to go to a public hearing with a document that the commission generated and having the commission monopolize the public hearing by asking questions about it. It's your document. You should know it.
Right.
So
So the
So we
date-
need to plan for that, I guess is what I'm
We've
saying
done that
too.
previously from the
Mm.
zoning subcommittee, made that presentation to the full commission, which I thought is kind of what we were doing tonight. But if we're not going in depth,
No,
it really is not going to count. We definitely need to book time to be much more in depth.
that's
Yeah,
correct. We will
I
do
was just
that.
going to ask staff to explain what the game plan is for going forward. We have a taste of what we, on a document of what amendments and changes would be made and additions and everything. So now that staff will send this out to the commission, everyone is expected to read it, become familiar with it, have questions ready. When do you think, Mr. Rossetti, it would be on the agenda next?
So just like every other zone change text amendment that we have, we will work with Mr. Teodosio, the zoning subcommittee, to prepare an application to be accepted. Once the application is accepted, we will set up for a public hearing, send out the notices, and then begin our typical process.
Mhm.
We hope to kind of get things buttoned up in the next week or so. And that way we
Oh.
can begin to accept it, hopefully by the end of this month and get a hearing scheduled for in February.
Mhm. Okay.
When are we going to have that workshop though, Alex?
That's, we're gonna schedule one. I just wanted to first make sure we're all on the same ballpark here before we start picking dates and shuffling things around.
I would encourage individual members of the commission, if they wish, to call staff or call me with specific questions, and we'll do our best to answer them, rather than wait for that work session. And then whatever is left over, we can deal with at that work session.
That's a very good suggestion. I like that approach.
Fair enough.
If we have a work session, that's not a public event.
No,
That is
that's
not.
not a public.
Okay.
I mean, if
Well,
you
if
do-
all the commissioners are present, then it's a quorum, then it's a public event.
it's a
That's-
public
that's
meeting,
Correct.
the public could attend and listen.
Public meeting,
Right.
the meeting
not-
is
but it's not a
closed to the public.
Public comment.
Yes, you would not be taking public comment.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that
They
would.
could listen,
later.
but can't speak.
Mhm. Right. So that would be the next time that would be on the agenda. It would be in that format.
That is
That
the
would be
plan.
good.
Alex and I will go through what we have and whatever preliminary comments we get back from commissioners. And we'll have a final document to be looked at and going through line by line if you wish.
Okay, and if all the stars align, then at the end of that particular discussion, there will be some kind of recommendation from the zoning subcommittee as to what to do next.
Yes, I mean, the work that the zoning subcommittee has done so far was very valuable in terms of our being able to pull together a specific proposal now.
Mm-hmm,
Without that, we would be 2 steps back.
mm-hmm. Okay. So at some point, we would expect the zoning subcommittee to endorse whatever the final document would be.
Well, does the zoning subcommittee want to meet before the commission as a whole meets to discuss it?
I don't think we need to.
I agree.
I think-
I didn't think
yeah.
it was necessary.
I
It's
agree.
only if you want us to, but I think we're
think
ready
that-
to move forward. Yeah.
You've got a lot of detail in this that once everybody sits down and reads it over and identifies if they have any questions, and as Mr. Pianico suggested, get in touch with him or Mr. Rossetti, then your any concerns that you have would probably be addressed. And
Do you agree with that?
would everybody agree with that? That's what Mr.
No, I say
Pianico-
that does Ruth, you're on the subcommittee also, right?
Yes, I agree with that.
and Mr.
I think,
and Commissioner-
our next step really needs to be to get it to the full commission for
Commission
their
as a whole,
input
right.
and concerns, and then get it out to the public.
Okay, and Commissioner Laskos, you're the newest member of the zoning subcommittee. Do you have any concerns?
I just need to familiarize myself with that
Yeah.
document. So,
Right. Okay.
no
Okay, good.
comment.
All right, so any
And
other,
the associated statement of uses that the document references would be helpful too when you start reviewing that.
Absolutely.
What we will be doing, Ruth, is taking that list of asterisk uses.
Yep.
And we'll be actually putting them into a schedule. that
Okay,
says line by line by line, what goes under what column.
Mhm.
okay.
Whether it's a special permit, whether it's permitted by site plan or
Yep.
not permitted at all.
And that schedule that Mr. Panico refers to are the orange pages that are in our zoning handbook.
So,
correct.
and we will get that probably put together within the next week. So,
Okay, that's good. All right, any further questions for Attorney Teodoso, Mr. Panico, or Mr. Rossetti?
I'll just mention
When
one
the
last.
time, Commissioner Ticky, for staff or Mr. Panico, when the time comes that there is a public hearing on this, since the city's acting kind of as an applicant, will we also hear from an engineer and from traffic study and all the rest that we would typically hear in an application?
in this case, no, because this is the kind of application that hinges solely on your planning judgments, backed up by whether or not those proposed uses will be appropriately supported. And I think we will have input on access in the form of the new road and the proposal to extend utilities. So if an area has proper support with roads and utilities, then you can then go ahead and implement zoning that will allow development that requires that support.
Mhm.
And we're not approving a specific building. We're approving a zone.
Mhm. Okay,
Okay, so knowing that you're going to have a well-designed, well-built road capable of high volumes of traffic, and you're going to have major utility lines brought in, then we know we have the basic ingredients.
mhm. Okay. All right, so that seems to wrap it up. So thank you, Attorney Teodoso, for participating this evening. Thank you, Mr. Panico and Mr. Rossetti, for your work, and thank you to the zoning subcommittee for pulling together the concept and getting it to this point. I think we have a good start here, and I look forward to its conclusion. So, okay. We'll move on to our next new business item, which is application 2128 Chromium Commons. Dominic Thomas for Primrose Development LLC at 113 Canal Street, Assessors Map 129, Lot 31, on 0.64 acres for a planned development district to include 30 apartments with on-site parking. We need a motion first to accept for review. Is there a motion for application 2128?
I'll make a motion, Commissioner Parkins, to accept.
I'll
And
second it, Commissioner Kelly.
thank you so much. So on the motion to accept application 2128 for review and for, I should have included for staff to set a public hearing. Commissioner Parkins and Commissioner Kelly, do you agree to that additional
Yes.
language?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Okay. I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Ticky,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, next, in the same vein, application 2129, Russo and Rizzio LLC for 79 Platt Road LLC for a text change to Schedule A permitted uses, line item 45A, to permit building contractors, businesses, and storage yards by special exception in the IA2 zone. Is there a motion to accept for review and for staff to set a public hearing?
I'll make that motion, Commissioner
Okay.
Kelly.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Motto. So on the motion to accept application 2129 and for staff for review and for staff to set a public hearing made by Commissioner Kelly, seconded by Commissioner Motto. Do a roll call, Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Ticky,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right, next agenda item is application 21-30 Russo and Rizzio LLC for 79 Platt Road LLC at 79 Platt Road, Assessors Map 77, Lot 20, on 1.96 acres for a zone change from OPD to IA2, and a special exception for 3 buildings, with 1 building in front for limited retail use connected with a contractor's business, and 2 buildings in the rear for a private storage, contractor storage and equipment bays. Is there a motion to accept for review and for staff to set a public hearing?
Commissioner Kelly, I'll make a motion to accept it.
Okay, is there a second?
Yeah, Commissioner Tiki will second.
Thank you. So on the motion to accept application 2130 and for review and for staff to set a public hearing, made by Commissioner Kelly, seconded by Commissioner Tiki. I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Amato,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All
Madam
right,
Chair.
Madam Chairman,
Just
There's a lot of interrelationship between applications D and E.
that's correct. So
Yes.
And application E is predicated on zoning amendments having been put into place.
that's
Mhm.
correct.
It
So
relies on a proposed zone change that they piggybacked into the same application. I'm just a little bit concerned about the time frame.
if can I
That's
speak for
when
1
the
second?
when the clock is going to start on each one of these items. If the clock starts simultaneously, and do you really want to start reviewing the special exception until you decide whether you make the zone change?
Mhm. Okay, so Mr. Rossetti,
I guess we have to do this, but the applicant's going to have to understand that we may need more time.
right. All right, so Mr. Rossetti, how do you plan to approach this?
That's correct, Tony. The applicant is aware of the procedures that we have to go through. I'm sure they will grant us time extensions. They just wanted to submit their applications in. I'm sure they had some type of contract. I will briefly remind the commission that this proposal was submitted in 2021 under a different application number. This
Right,
is for, some of you have met to discuss this proposal in tech sessions. Essentially, the applicant would like to change this zone on this piece of property to, I believe it's this zone across the street. So right now it's OPD. They would like to change this zone to an industrial zone, which would allow for the use of contractor storage bays and yards. So where you might typically see, Bobby's painting and Joey's carpentry vans parked, across the street from you or in a driveway down the road, those businesses would have their garage bays here where they could store their materials and supplies and their trucks and vans and be able to meet up in the morning and at their own locations without bothering neighbors. And have a facility. And we've definitely dealt with this on a zoning enforcement end. It's something that's needed in town. But the applicant will have to go through the steps to show the commission that this is an appropriate area and an appropriate use. Right here off of Bridgeport Avenue on Platte Road.
It was a
So-
very similar proposal. It's on Long Hill Crossroads.
Maybe it doesn't ring a bell for me, but maybe it was before my time.
It was.
So again, as Tony just said, those two items are heavily connected. The zone change must come before the special exception and site plan for the latter. So just keep that in mind as you look at these items going forward. And we will certainly put the zone change on an agenda prior to the site plan and special exception, because that is the priority for the applicant as well as for the commission to entertain the idea of.
The applicant is aware that we may separate those and not have one hearing, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I was under the impression from looking at this that there was a contemplated one hearing to present the whole package.
No, that's why they're separated into two different items to make that clear.
Do we have that on record that they're willing to give us more time?
No, but I've spoken to the attorney and they are well aware, but, and if they're not, then we can ask them to withdraw it or we deny it. And the clock starts
All that
over.
would be required, Ruth, is for them to give us an extension of time required for scheduling the public hearing on special exception.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we just don't want to get caught up.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, go ahead and accept it and then turn around and deny it because it's not allowed in that zone.
Okay, as long as we have a recourse and it doesn't default to approval.
We
Yeah.
do.
Yep,
No.
absolutely.
I think staff will be keeping on top of it. So in this case, we will definitely know that the chicken came before the egg. All right, next agenda item is the public portion. Mr. Rossetti, is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak?
You pull up the list.
If there is a
Um,
member of the public here that would wish to speak, you need to raise your hand.
I do not see anybody raising their hand. We have 3 additional members, people calling in. If you would like to speak up, please raise your hand, or if you're dialing in, press *9. But I do not see anyone raising their hand or asking to speak up.
Okay, so for final opportunity for anyone who is here from the public that would like to speak, you either if you're in the Zoom meeting, raise your hand. If you are calling in to dial, hit *9. All right, seeing that there doesn't seem to be anyone indicating that they wish to be heard, we'll move on to other business. And first thing is the zoning enforcement officer report. Mr. O'Neill, are you ready for us?
I'm here.
All right, so everyone received an email at 4:45 this afternoon. It gave the City of Shelton staff report for the 2021 calendar year. You list on page 2 a number of applications. This is the ones on page 2 that's for just, yeah, these are the ones that would, you took out the ones for a home office, for a shed, for a pool, for all that kind of stuff. This is the rest of them, correct?
You're talking about page 2, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, page 2 is just the larger, if you will, applications, zone changes, PDDs, special exceptions, site plans. Yeah, all of the smaller items like garages, sheds, residential construction are listed under the certificates of compliance on the next page.
Okay, and then just a couple of the ones that jump out that, for instance, we had 2114 Harrington Manor, that was for a couple building lots. There's been no activity other than the lots being cleared. Let's see. Yeah, Spotted Horse 2123. That was the outside tent or
Yep.
cover. Okay. The last couple down there, those are the ones that we scheduled a public hearing. Is there some kind of change in Dogtopia that they changed their original design or something? Submission?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you have on file the plans that came in. Has there been a change in what their design is or something?
No, that's still the same concept. They submitted some additional material this morning, which will be posted for the next hearing when it's up on the agenda. But no, there's no change in the overall concept.
Okay. All right. And yeah, 2119 two-family home. That's well on its way to being completed.
Yep.
So what about which one is it that was Oh, maybe it's a prior year. The gas station up where Langakis is.
Yeah, that was last year.
Okay. That's why it's not.
That is still, under, we approved it, but it's still under review for other items for either the property owner or the applicant.
Okay. And speaking of prior year approvals, the donut shop, which is the house that was torn down to the left of Victorian condos on Howe Avenue. That property is now being developed. That approval came a couple years ago. So,
Yeah, I believe Mr. Ken has some updates on the downtown projects. I
Good.
believe that one's going to be started next month.
Okay. All right. So we'll leave more comments to Mr. Nappy when it's his turn. Anything else on page 2?
No, I mean, this is just an overview of all the applications that were submitted this year and acted upon. Basically in status, withdrawn, approved, denied, pending. So that's about it. So if anyone has any questions on this page or comments, feel free to speak up.
Refresh my memory about 2122, the Shell station. What do they want to do?
So that is we're still waiting for some material from the applicant. They want to reconfigure where the pumps are. Basically, that's it. Reconfiguring where the pumps are.
Oh, okay. Okay. Any questions for Mr. O'Neill on this page? Okay. If not, what do you have on page 3? Anything in particular?
Yes, these are the certificates of compliance that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. I have them broken down by type roughly. There's always some more, unique ones that come in every now and then. So last year we had about 339, I think, total. This year we had 435, which is an increase, which we expected since last year was a little bit of a down year, not being in the office all the time. Another thing to go along with that, the home office permits went up by 81%, almost doubled from last year to this year. And yeah, this is a breakdown.
We're losing you.
How many applications of each type? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so this in the page 4 is a graph that illustrates that table. You can see March, we had almost double the volume in certificates as the other months. The other ones were pretty consistent, about between 30 and 40 applications that came in a month, certificates of compliance. So yeah, these 2 pages are kind of just 2 different ways to show the same data. And if anyone has any questions or comments about this, feel free to speak up.
All right, and then the last page, your zoning enforcement.
Yep, that's the final page. This is just similar to the certificate of compliance. It's broken down by roughly what type of complaint or violation and the amount. So there were 55 complaints. We only take written complaints, to add them to our official enforcement list. I have a spreadsheet that has all of them on it.
You
And
know
out of the
that there
55,
are 15
Right.
that are still open now. So what kind, are they of one particular type that are still to be resolved, or just spread out?
no, it's a mix. There's unregistered vehicles that people have in their yards. It takes a little while to get people to move on that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Fences, roosters. You'd be surprised. Let's see.
The
Yeah,
unregistered
and then
vehicle seems to be a real,
yeah, so that also includes, if somebody has a trailer or a construction dumpster or something like that in a residential property. So not just vehicles, it could be any sort of commercial or equipment that's not supposed to be in a residential zone.
do any of the filling and grading ones, the 3 that are noted, are they ones that are intruding into city open space?
No, I put that under other. That there was a complaint that came in up on, what's the name of that road? Old Dairy. So there's some open space over there. Somebody was clearing the open space. They had no idea it was city-owned property. So they are now aware, and they are no longer clearing the open space, letting it grow back to its natural state. So that's one of the ones that's resolved. Again, that's under the other category.
What led that person to believe that that was part of his property? Did he?
I'm not sure. I mean, his grass stopped and then there was, the open space, which was pretty clearly delineated, but
It wasn't a new resident, was it?
no.
Uh-huh. Okay. Any questions for Mr. O'Neill?
I have a question. I don't know if this is an enforcement issue, but I just wanted to bring up that I toured 502 Howe Avenue Apartments at a different time than the rest of you. And I asked about the parking and I was told that they are charging for the underground parking. Sounds like they were, charging additional for that. And I think that is not what our intent was for parking.
Did they say for an additional spot, Elaine, or for one?
No, for any spot in the underground, in the covered parking, that was a separate charge. If I understood it correctly, I asked them a couple times. So I just wanted to be clear.
But was it optional?
Well,
Or
they
just
have
opened out?
uncovered parking and they have covered parking. And the uncovered parking, this is how I understood what they were telling me. The uncovered parking, there was no charge for that. But if they wanted the underground covered parking, they had to pay extra for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, regardless, there should be one space per unit, automatically delineated.
Right, but if people, it seems to be the history in the town that when people have to pay for parking, they may elect to park somewhere else.
Yeah, where they're not supposed to, yeah.
Yeah.
We've only had that in one case with Avalon, and I thought, and I wasn't on the commission at the time that the project at 502 on Howe was permitted, so I can't speak for the commission, but I think that's a question we've been asking. And
I think for every project, we've been trying to make that clear that
right,
was
and putting it into the record that there will be no charge for parking for one car per apartment.
right.
I guess the way to put it is that if somebody wants a free parking space, they should be able to provide it.
Oh, yeah,
Regardless of whether it's covered or uncovered.
absolutely.
Right. And if it turns out that enough people want to pay for covered parking, then there's no issue. But if everybody has started objecting to paying to public for the parking that's covered, and we find that those spaces are empty and that there's not sufficient open parking, then we got an enforcement issue.
I think you have an enforcement issue anyway, because I think we probably made it pretty clear that parking should not be a separate charge.
Yeah, I was not aware of that, but I can.
And I don't know
can
how
reach
we
out.
would enforce, knowing whether every parking space is being used. That seems like that would be impossible to monitor that in any effective way.
Mhm.
I guess.
Yeah,
the-
on a day-to-day basis, yeah, it would be
It's-
possible.
the place to start is to determine how many open parking spaces are available as compared to the number of apartments.
I think it's pretty
It's
evenly
someone-
divided there,
They
but
represented that they had an excess of parking, if I recall right.
not by much.
Well, they did because they have the drive-through and the coffee shop below as well. So they've got some retail in there
Right,
that they have
right.
to provide some parking down below.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that this is I think 502, that particular thing, Tony had, if I recall, 1.6 spaces per apartment complex,
Mhm.
apartments. There are, at Bridge Street Commons, I know that they have some excess parking and they do charge for second vehicles.
That's fine.
Yep.
I think, in terms of what we could require, that would be fine.
We
But
mandate a minimum of one space per one parking space per unit.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is because if they have to pay for a spot, one car spot, then they're gonna find parking on the road or the street
Correct.
where, people that are trying to visit the restaurants and stuff is gonna be taking parking away from them. So
That's what we
That's-
don't want to have happen. right?
exactly.
Mhm. Okay.
Well, I think it could be looked into.
Josh, has one of the enforcement ones have anything to do with the cleared lot up on Commerce Drive to the left of the BTX building that seems to have generate runoff in during storms?
Yeah, so that's not listed under the enforcement table I have here, but I have reached out to Mr. Cinto, Rob, who said they would look into it. I believe they went up there and cleared or looked at part of the sidewalk. I'm not sure if they looked at the part I was speaking about. So I have to reach out to the Cintos again to make sure we're on the same page in terms of where the water's coming from. I went up there with Ken last week, I believe, and you could clearly see, the area from the site where the water was coming out and then onto the sidewalk and eventually going onto the street, which is causing the problem. So we can locate, where the problem is. It's just a matter of finding out where the water is coming from and maybe just installing some more silt fencing or hay bales to prevent the water from leaving the site. But that's something I will follow up with Rob tomorrow.
So I go by there every single day in the morning, lunch, and at night as I work in the corporate towers. I noticed on Monday when I went into work yesterday that there was no water in the road, but I don't know if it was because everything was just so frozen. But it looked like there was other places along the road that, that water was pooling, not from that spot. But so I don't know whether it's been fixed or if the ground was just so frozen that no water was seeping up.
Okay, yeah, I haven't been up there since we were up last week, but I can check and see if they maybe installed some other soil and erosion measures.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
give you guys an
possible.
update.
Josh, I did inspect it yesterday. As
Yep.
reported, they still have to clean that sidewalk. It's covered with silt and mud. But you're right, Ruth, it did stop some of the flow. It may be because of the frozen
Yeah.
grounds, but there definitely is some surface water coming up through and causing that problem.
Mr. O'Neill, when you do go out to sites, do you document these by taking pictures?
Yeah, so anytime we go out on a complaint or something like this, yeah, we take pictures, which is all logged into the file that we have on our shared drive for each complaint. They have their pictures with the date. Yeah, so we do take pictures when we're out.
Okay, so then it'll be very easy then to be able to specifically point out for the property owner where you see the issues that other people have experienced.
Yep.
Okay. Any further questions for Mr. O'Neill?
Josh, can I add something on enforcement, please?
Sure.
If you see the dot underneath it, Josh's table, and that's the office does routine inspections of the construction site for compliance with soil erosion. And Josh has implemented a notice of non-compliant. And what we try to do on those that happen more than once is issue that to the property owner, because many times it's the foreman or site person that hasn't done the job, and we feel going back that the property owner who's responsible for it may not really know it. And so in this way, we tell them that you're on non-compliance, and I think, Josh, he has to get back to us or you within 48 hours of the service of the notice.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Is that right, Josh? 48 hours is it?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. I forgot about that. Yeah, it's a form that we made up, a deficiency notice is what it's called, where we can fill it out in the field. And there's tearaway copies, so you can, keep a copy for the office, for the file, and then give a copy to someone if there's someone on site.
Good. So you have a paper trail.
Yep.
Okay. All right, good. All right. And if there isn't anything else, then thank you, Mr. O'Neill, for your work on that, and Mr. Nappi for your assistance as well. So next, under other business, update of recently approved and ongoing projects. Mr. Rossetti, is that something that you have?
I have some notes on that as well.
Okay. Is there
So I have a
something?
list of about 10 or 12 projects that have been approved in the last 3, 4 or so years.
Mhm.
So just a short update on each of them. So Fountain Square, as we've all probably seen, is starting up again. Panera especially is very eager to get going. They've submitted their sign application to me, actually. The next one is Daybreak Ridge, that's up on River Road, where they had the cliff. So that we went up there a couple weeks ago. The foundations are in for, I believe, 3 or 4 of the buildings out of the 6 or 7 that are totally there on site. 20 Commerce Drive, we just spoke about. That's where the water's coming from, the Cinto property. Let's see, Petromont Lane. That was the apartments, a PDD zone change. The site has been cleared. There's no other work that's been started yet. I believe there's a revision that the applicant wants to propose, which we haven't gotten any official documentation for yet. So that site's kind of waiting for that.
Mhm.
There are 3 lots subdivision that was approved on the corner of Booth Hill Road and Mohegan. Those 3 lots are under construction for single family homes. Todd Road is not started yet. That's the 1-story retail center.
Right.
That has not been started. Meadow Ridge Estates subdivision off of Meadow Street and William Street. The site has been cleared and prepped for road construction. Other than that, there are no other, they haven't moved any further forward than that.
That's down by the police department.
Correct, yep.
Mhm.
I believe that was 6 or 7 lots. Nichols Place down on Nichols Avenue is underway. An estimate, probably about 50% of the lots are done, or the houses are nearing completion. The road and the sewer service is all in. So that's moving along nicely.
There are residents living there.
Yeah, I believe 2 or 3 of the houses are occupied, and most of them,
They're more like maybe 5 or 6.
yeah.
Okay.
Waterview Drive was the proposal that we approved this year, is underway. That's the industrial manufacturing building, was a PDD. Hawks Ridge is finally almost done. There's about 4 or 5 villas left on Wellsview Road, and that project will be totally complete. So
Has
that'll happen in
anybody
the next few
set
months.
up a walkthrough?
For Hawks Ridge?
No, for the next door to on
The apartments, that's part of Hawks Ridge.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, did you guys look at the smaller building, or you haven't looked at either?
We haven't looked at either.
Okay, that's something that we will get scheduled.
Mhm.
2 more, Long Hill Crossroads, that's the 55 and over.
Yes.
That's under construction. They're prepping the site to get the road in. They're framing the houses or the duplexes.
It's the age
So that's moving along. Then the left final one is Booth Hill Estates. That's from a few years ago. Currently, there's 3 to 4 lots that are under construction to build the houses. And then there's an additional 2 lots, I believe, that have not been started yet, or we haven't gotten any applications for, so they're vacant lots. So that's moving along and almost completed. And that's all I got.
Very good. All right, any questions for Mr. O'Neill? Okay, Mr. Rossetti, did you have anything to add to that?
I do not.
Okay. All right, next is the letter from Conservation Commission.
Ginny, I have the downtown if you want to go right into that, or you want to wait.
We'll wait for staff comments so I can go through every name, if you wouldn't mind. So what's this Conservation Commission letter?
The Conservation Commission wrote us 2 letters at the end of last year regarding 2 different proposals. One was for the 405 Long Hill Avenue project with the Gatas PDD number 95, which many of you will remember for the site remediation that was done with the tires for the 4-lot, I believe it's for 4-lot residential development that the commission recently settled at the end of the year. And then the other letter was written for a new project, which is coming up on 7 Ivy Brook Road, which is off of Constitution Boulevard South. And the letters were written in regards to the fact that both of these proposals are PDDs, and they are being used for residential purposes. In addition, so is Petromont, and so are some of the other recent approvals that we have undertaken via PDD, the PDD mechanism, have allowed for residential uses, which is fine. That's not their concern. Their concern is typically when residential projects were approved, such as subdivisions or conservation developments or other mechanisms, there were fees in lieu of for those projects or open space donations. And that is not occurring with APDD.
That's just,
So their comment is, how is there a way for the commission to address this without, developers potentially not misusing the PDD, but for developers to continue to contribute to Shelton's open space and conservation without totally skirting it with the PDDs.
Mhm.
Are these new PDDs or existing ones?
They are both. So I will show. So for example,
well, one's existing. for a
One's
while,
pending, right?
other issues.
correct. So this new one this is the Long Hill Avenue site with the Gator property represented by Dominic Thomas for 4 lots. Where there was site remediation on that. I can pull up the location if people would like.
But the relevant point there is there's a significant open space reservation.
Right. That's what I was going to get at, that the PDD requires additional open space that wouldn't be with a traditional subdivision. So they've already gotten the extra open space.
Yeah, the trouble is it hasn't been given to the city because the city's not interested in it.
Right, because it doesn't.
Not the type of open space that ought to be open to the public.
Right.
Josh, Mr. Rossetti, this particular letter that's up on the screen is not having to do with Gata's property.
No,
in Long Hill.
this is the other letter that they wrote.
Right, okay.
And this will be part of, this application's formal
But the
docket.
public hearing hasn't started on that, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah,
They're jumping the gun on 7 Ivy Brook Road,
right.
Well, their point
and they're
is-
getting into areas that are not their concern.
well, hang on.
Sidewalks.
Their point is, for example, I don't know if there was any open space. I can't remember off the top of my head. Open space for fee in lieu of for the Blakeman proposal by the car dealerships on Old Bridgeport Avenue.
Once again, there's significant chunks of the site that are not developed. That can or have been marked as conservation areas.
Okay.
The trouble is their interpretation of open spaces gives something to the city, land or money. And that's not the true conservation. That's not the true definition of open space.
Mm-hmm.
Open space can take many forms.
Well, then I'd suggest that when we receive a letter such as this, staff investigates what the situation is and come up with a response for a commission approval.
That's fair. I didn't know if the commission would want to entertain if this has ever been in anyone else's mind, or if they would want to entertain any other suggestions or options, or if they would just like to address this on a case-by-case basis.
Case by case. We may have don't we already have something in the regulations?
And we go through this with every PDD, which is, one of the reasons that we're, I think, now trying to get away from PDD, but it's always been the case with PDDs that we've looked for additional open space to be set aside, not necessarily fee in lieu of, or given, if it doesn't connect to city open space, then there's really no use for it for the city, but it's still preserved as open space.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's a downtown urban setting for the PDD,
Right.
where we have approved them with no open space.
Right.
I personally don't mind hearing from the Conservation Commission because hearing a different perspective is always helpful so that we do make sure that we're not missing anything.
Agree.
It is ultimately our responsibility to make sure that we are not letting land or monetary reimbursement to the city get passed by. So,
I just say the get the 4-lot subdivision, and we approved that a long time ago. I think it's, the time to bring anything up about that would have been during the process, not now.
Which they usually always do have input on
Right.
projects such as that.
mhm,
Right.
yeah. Is there something in the checklist that staff uses to make sure that they are bringing this up, that it's not something that they forget to talk about? I don't think so. I think,
But it is a requirement under the subdivision regulations
yeah.
to create open space or pay fee in lieu of.
mhm,
Right.
Right.
And the new residential district that we have as well.
mhm. Okay. All right, so would staff then be able to draft some kind of response for us to review and approve?
Sure.
Okay,
Well, I don't think there's a clear-cut response to handle all situations of PDDs.
right, that's why I was saying,
You would have to start
Fortunately,
explaining
case by
the
case.
difference between a downtown urban PDD as opposed to a
Mhm.
suburban PDD.
Mhm.
yeah.
They're probably just trying to get out in front of Ivy Brook as well. So,
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, it's been accepted for review, so,
right.
okay. All right, if there aren't any more comments on other business item C, we'll move on to item D, comments from the chair and subcommittee chair people. I really don't have anything in particular at this time to remark on myself. There was an SEDC meeting this morning, but unfortunately I was not able to sit in on it. My understanding, it was recorded and I was to be provided with the link so I can sit and listen to it. But Commissioner Parkins was present. So is there anything in particular, Commissioner Parkins, that?
No, just keep in mind that the SCDC, the Shelton Economic Development Commission, is comprised of a large membership of mostly businesses. And every year they have an annual meeting, and that was held today. It was supposed to be in person, but I think a lot of people started dropping out due to COVID. Janice Sheehy from Webster Bank was the honored Levites Award winner, a very prestigious award that the Shelton SEDC gives out every year. And overall, I think they did a presentation. Naturally, it's focused on downtown with all the cleanup and remediation that's going on with the Starpin building and along Canal Street. And then they did a little presentation on the tax revenue that these new developments are generating. So I think overall it left a very positive outlook, and I don't see how it could not have left people with a very positive outlook on the direction that the city is taking downtown. So I think it was and again, it will be open on YouTube for people to watch if they so choose. So
Great, very good. Okay, so
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, my microphone's on mute for a second. I wanted to ask if you'd like to recognize the Conservation Commission Chair, Mr. Harbinson.
let me finish with this particular section first.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So, Commissioner Mata, what about downtown subcommittee? I mean, not the zoning subcommittee.
Yeah, well, we've talked about it in relation to the Moss property, but nothing else is, and we're just dealing with signs as they come along. So I think we're up to date.
Okay. All right. And Commissioner Kelly.
Yes, I'll turn it over to Mr. Nappi. He can explain our past meeting.
Okay. All right, then we'll jump over to Mr. Nappi as part of comments from the subcommittee. And so, Mr. Nappi, you have the floor.
Thank you. We did have a meeting was held down at the Russo's. It was attended by the developers that are investing in downtown, along with the condominium people, and along with some private citizens and business people. So I thought it was a good discussion period, and I think Charlie can attest to that.
Absolutely.
I think they're working together. One of the things that came out of it was they still would like the trolley service to come to implementation, and we are working on that. The city has donated use of 2 former Valley Transit buses and we'll be looking at that. The developers are in the process of forming an LLC of the Shelton Downtown Development Association to be a mover and owner type of thing of the trolley service. So that's moving ahead. Of course, the discussion always goes to parking, and so there was a lively discussion about the requirement of parking and the need for it in the downtown area. It was also brought up about the lighting at the public parking areas now and increased signage. So that is in the forefront of trying to at least get that going, along with street lamps with the new development. If you notice, all the new developments downtown conform to our recommendation of street lamps by the UI guideline, and also the planting of trees, and that's by the DOT guidelines. They've adopted that. That's also part of the plan that was done by the architect some years ago on the downtown model. Tate, I think his name was Architect Tate, if I recall. So that's used. They're given the specifications for both the lighting and the plantings, and it's been pretty successful so far. If you want, I can move into some of the, if Alex will put it up, some of the projects, or all of the projects that are going along downtown.
Yeah, go ahead. I think that's a good segue.
One before that, Alex? The chart on all of the projects.
Oh, yeah.
This chart represents about 20 projects. There, I believe, are 3 of them that are not really in the downtown area, but are on the fringe of it. And if you look at project 19, that's the second Vista Apartments, with the commission approved. There's 16 apartments in that. They've started construction on that site work, and that's moving along. Right above it in line 16, again, outside by the park, Riverview Park, is Vista Apartments 1. There was 14, and that is completed, as you know. We've included the occupancy. One thing to keep in mind is that all of the apartments downtown, before they finished construction, had 100% occupancy, and were in lease. And in fact, there's a waiting list on most of the apartments downtown for people to come in. So that particular area is moving along. What's lacking and comes slower is the business mixed use opportunity that downtown should have. We meet with them and try to keep track of 2 things. One, what's the type of tenant that's leasing your property? Where are they coming from? Where out of this area or outside of the area? Where are they working? And also what success they're having in renting the retail development. So we're going to prepare a list of what has come into the new developments, and you should get that next meeting. And I think you'll see that it's starting to gel now that the apartments are being occupied.
Good.
The first one, let's see, is it number 7? The first one, number 7, is Bridge Street Commons. I believe that was the first one. There were 40 apartments in that, and of course, that's 100% occupied. Let me just say that several years ago, the commission and staff implemented an inspection process. So any new development downtown, as is new developments outside, are personally inspected by staff. And we go through every apartment, and we make sure that the apartment is built to the specifications that the commission had approved, meaning 1-bedroom efficiency, bedroom and a den, 2 bedrooms, and what type of materials used and the appearance of that. Also, the commission has an opportunity to go through it, where we hold walkthroughs through those new developments. And I think that's been helpful to the commission to see what the end result is bringing to Shelton. The second one is 62 Center Street. You'll see that that's rebid on hold. When DEP, as I reported before, stepped in concerning, I think it's Berry and Brown Brook under there. and the 100-year flood regulations and the size of the tunnel that was built in the WPA days. They said that it had to be redone completely, and the bid came in about $900,000 just for the retunneling of that particular property. So the owners put that on a rebid. It's going to go out for another bid, see what happens. So we're in contact with him. It's time to check with him again as to what his plans are for that. 9 is Cedar Village at Carroll's. That's 100% occupied. That was 33 apartments. Its sister building that's on Cormant Hill is 30 apartments, and that's 100% occupied. We do, as we're going through, also talk with the tenants who are in the parking lots to see how they're liking living in downtown Shelton. And it's been a great experience to hear them. You know, they're coming from Westport and Fairfield, that town, down that line. They're mostly professional people working in the health, finance area, the business area. A lot work on in the Central Towers in that area. Strange thing is down on the Avalon, former Avalon area, is they're getting probably a quarter of rentals when they open up to people that have sold their house and have decided to rent for a year or so to see what the housing market's like before they make a determination whether they're going to stay in the apartment compounds or they're going to go to condominiums or buy other houses in Shelton. The strong point is they're staying in Shelton to decide what they want to buy in Shelton. So that's been enlightening also. The Riverwalk apartment, the construction is anticipated on that. Shortly, I think I have a date there, and I think Josh had talked about that, and that's going to be in February. They're going for their final WPCA approval, I think next Thursday. Bridge Street Commons 2 brought us 72. That's where Dunkin' Donuts used to be, and that's 100% occupied. The model property has been sold. A young group of investors has bought it. They refinished the Liquid Lunch building, I'll refer to it as, on Howe Avenue, and they're temporarily going to rent that until they decide what type of structure they want to put up on that site. Approval for 509 Howe Avenue, that's the old show building, Calandro's, that's across from the Webster Bank. That's on hold. I know they're coming in with different plans for that property. That's been approved for, I think, 27 apartments. And the next door body property has been approved for 13. That's also on hold. And there's some talk that they want to combine those properties and come in with a project that covers from Shelton Pizza all the way to White Street. They're also in talk with, I believe, the property owners of the corner building of White at Howe Avenue. So that would mean the total construction of White from White Street all the way to Shelton Pizza. I'm on 523 Howe Avenue. That was the Calandro, I believe. Vista, I explained. The Great River Water Club, again, that's on River Road next to the Auto Swage building. That's on hold. As you know, the Auto Swage building was in foreclosure, and I believe they're looking to see if they will have a chance to purchase that property and build it into their plans. These are all approved. The approved on 502 is the Webster Bank building. I think that's 62 buildings on that, 56, I'm sorry, and that's 100% occupied. The next one is the Canal Bridge Lofts. The commission that went through it remembers that's adjoining the bridge, the old Derby Shelton Bridge it's referred to. That's also 100%, and that's 46 apartments. That's adjacent to the restaurant and the office, and the approval or disapproval of the office from retail to apartments. The Birmingham is a old one. That's a condo apartment, but that's fully occupied by either rental or owner occupied. And we get no complaints down there. The only complaint we had was, I think, Josh, there was a machine on the property that's used to repoint or do the bricks, and it was there for more than 30 days, and that some of the tenants wanted it moved, which we did contact the owner, and they did move it. The Birmingham, that's the Birmingham. The Marianne Riverwalk is the 250 unit apartment that was formerly Avalon. That's 100% occupied also. River Breeze is under construction. That's at 223 Howe Avenue. That's, I think, not 68 apartments. It should be completed within another month and a half. And we'll be inspecting that also, and the commission will be going through that project. Housatonic River Lofts, plans are in development. If you move up a little bit, Alex, on that for me. That's along the canal. Right now, I'm sorry.
The other way, yeah.
Yeah, the plans are in development on that. I believe that the next one is the Watts River Tower. No plans have submitted on that. There's no owner for that property. It's looking to be sold for development. The last one is 30 apartments at the Chromium Commons, which is at the White Street at West Canal area. And those plans are submitted. I believe you accepted them tonight. So believe it or not, it represents almost 1,000 apartments, majority of them in downtown Shelton, which is going to generate an increase in retail and mixed use. There are a couple others that are looking at some property on Bridgeport Avenue by Carvel, an open lot that may come into development also. The next one, when we had reorganized the office, we found that the plan of development along the riverfront had not been updated. And if you can put that up. Yeah, so this was submitted on January 4th by Mr. Getz. Mr. Getz has requested to meet with the commission and go through the modified development, riverfront development along Canal Street and explain the plans that he has. I think it's PDD 60, is it, Alex? It's 60 or
Correct.
61.
Yep.
So there's some new ideas coming in. We're still burdened by the closure of the track, which doesn't provide a traffic flow around some of the downtown areas back to Route 110. And I believe the mayor's working diligently on that. He's up to the federal level now, so we'll see what happens. So if the commission wants, we'll set up the meeting that Mr. Getz divided, and he'll go through this in detail as to what he's proposing. Keep in mind that we're still requiring him to submit a detailed development plan as he moves forward on some of these properties. I think in talking with Mr. Panico, that needs to be reviewed and approved by this commission. So that's what I have. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to do it.
How
Yes.
far
Yeah.
along is River Breeze? The one that's past Marion?
That's about a month and a half away from it.
Hmm.
And that seems to be coming along. We've had some erosion problems, but the inspections have taken care of that.
Ken, did you mention that Calandro proposal doesn't seem to have gone anywhere, but north of where the old movie theater is, across
Right.
from,
That is the Calandro proposal.
yeah,
They're trying to hook up the body property, which is for sale. And they're having talks with the Grant family, who owns the corner building at Howe and White, in order to try to bring in a development that, as I said, that goes from White Street to the Pizza Palace. And this is across from the Webster Bank.
so they'd
they're-
be looking to change their original plan.
They're going
quite
to
a bit.
modify that to include
Yeah.
that. That's correct.
Yeah.
Right now, there's
Okay.
13 and 27 apartments that have been approved on those two spots. So
Okay,
I think it's been helpful for the commission to go through all of these apartments and to see
Yeah.
what exactly is happening down there.
Absolutely.
all right, any other questions for Mr. Nappy?
This Commissioner Ticky, I would just said it, we're all down in downtown and we're all walking around downtown and we see the apartments as they get built up, but it was really helpful to see the list and to see nearly 1,000 apartments, all of which have guests and friends that visit. And I think we're all hopeful that there will be more small businesses that complement all the residences we have down there. And we do need more parking in downtown. So it's something we've talked a lot about and we heard from the business owners when we met as a downtown subcommittee, but look forward to continue to work with you all on finding ways for us to communicate where the parking is and to get more parking in downtown for these residences. And then for all the businesses that will come in to complement those residences, 1,000 apartments and counting in our downtown.
Mr. Nappy and Mr. O'Neill, are there any zoning enforcement issues with any of the retailers downtown? Say from the bottom of Library Hill all the way to Route 8 Bridge?
Josh?
Any issues with any of them?
No, to be honest, we got some complaints about the smoke shop that moved in next to the restaurant. Because of the bong pipes that are in the window and the lighting effect of that. And is that something that we really want to portray in the downtown area? So I know Josh is working on it. We're going to pay that owner a visit to see if he could soften up that particular area of his storefront windows, which are loaded with the bong pipes. So that may be something that we need to consider with some regulations also when we tackle it.
What
I mean,
about,
we do get complaints, to be honest with you, is, why does the commission only say there's going to be one parking space per apartment in that area? And should they set a higher level? But it goes hand in hand with the development. It's about $25,000 per one parking space to develop. So going along with that, they indicate also goes along with increasing the height of the building so that they can get apartments that would support the number of increase in parking regulation.
right. Anything going on Center Street?
No, the only thing is to try to work on street lighting, lampposts, and trees.
Wasn't there something about sidewalks having to do with, so they are all matched?
Yeah, to make sure that the brickwork goes through the entire area. And that there's conduit underneath it so that the street lamps could be installed easier. I believe that the fee is that they're charging the developers about $25 a month for lights, and that includes any damage done to the light pole, to the lamp, the replacing of the bulb. So they see it as a pretty affordable thing to add to the downtown area.
For sure. I'd like to pay $25 a month for electricity. So, okay, anybody else? All right. Commissioner Amato, any other comments from the zoning subcommittee?
No.
Okay. All right, and staff comments. So, Mr. Rossetti, anything?
No sad.
Okay, Mr. O'Neill? Okay, Mr. Nappy, you've done it. How about Mr. Panico? Do you have any?
No, I'm just listening and getting updated with the rest of you.
Okay. All right. And then Mr. Harbinson had his hand up. So first of all, I want to compliment Mr. Harbinson. He lent himself to be Santa Claus at Jones Family Farms. Did an excellent job. The kids, young and old, loved it.
There's no children watching.
I'll relate two things related to Ginny's comment. Today, for the very first time, I was getting lunch at the IJ in White Hills, and the checkout clerk said to me, "Oh, are you over 55? And did you want the senior discount?" So I'm keeping the beard. Secondly, I've performed with the Center Stage folks, and when you take on the role of Santa Claus, it is special. And it hadn't happened for a couple of years due to COVID for a lot of children. And we did it in a spatially separate way here at the farm. I had one child who looked at me and said, "You're not the real Santa Claus." And I said, "Oh, why do you say that?" And he said, "Because you don't have a real beard." And I said, go ahead and pull on it. And it was like Miracle on 34th Street, really. You know, she came over and pulled it. You are the real Santa Claus. He is a real deer.
Right.
Oh,
So,
cute.
It's so
hopefully
fun.
that child is not watching this YouTube video, but just the same, it was special. So thank you.
I do want to point out that if you ever get stuck, Alderman Simonetti participates as Santa Claus helper as well.
We've had several great Santa Claus over the years, so I'm really following the footsteps of some great participants on the farm, but everybody gets older.
Good. Well, I'm waiting for Rudolph to show up one day.
Thank you for letting me make a few comments, Madam Chairman. I do watch all your videos on YouTube when I'm eating dinner or still at work. So tonight there was another meeting on the YouTube channel, so I didn't think it was going to go live on that, so that's why I participated in your Zoom. But sometimes the flow of a meeting renders a tenor or tone to a letter that maybe doesn't come across when it's just in textual form. So regarding the letters that Conservation Commission wrote on the two PDDs that had a residential component to it, we've been reflecting upon the nature of passive recreation on our city open spaces, and particularly the recreation path and the new barn that's been constructed by the city to help the volunteers house their equipment and so on by the dog park area. With COVID, there's been a tremendous increase in people getting outdoors for exercise, mental health and wellness, particularly on the recreation path. I personally had not been on it walking in probably a decade. And recently I had a day off and I walked it from down on Lane Street all the way up to the dog park. And it was in the middle of the week in an afternoon, and I encountered a diverse spectrum of people from our community. And as Mr. Nappy just gave a consolidation of all the activities been happening downtown, and I'm on the SPZC as well, and I really believe that economic development can work hand in hand with environmental consciousness. Those are people who certainly can use the Riverwalk, but if you're up at a Mark's rental location up on Bridgeport Avenue or any of these other PDDs that are being considered, part of the open space set aside can be to be a buffer, like on the Moss property, between what will come and the residential that exists. It can be a wildlife corridor habitat purpose, but it also can provide a passive recreation opportunity. And, you know, looking at what we have right now with the recreation path and the consolidation of all those parcels that have been acquired over the years, and as a reference to Shelton Lakes Greenway, the first parcel that was acquired there was over near the La Hermitage on Nels Rock and was slated to be the town incinerator site. So plans can change. And oftentimes, hopefully, with the input from everybody into a positive direction. And so looking 10 years from now, where will the passive recreation opportunities be for the community beyond what we have right now to satisfy the needs that we will have? I mean, we have a lot of our recreational active opportunities are on school campuses, which are, you know, off limits when school's in session. And when you have an aging population of our community, that's an element to consider too. And we do have properties set aside, like the Wysick property, that are adjacent to school campuses that might become a centralized recreation opportunity. But when there's pocket park needs of particular parcels that might be appropriate to be acquired by the city for open space purposes, and speaking of passive recreation in this vein, that comes about through the set aside of open space within a neighborhood, and where that's not appropriate, there's a fee in lieu of that land dedication that can contribute towards a future land purchase. And so that's what's going into the conversation that was going on at planning at the conservation when we were developing those letters, because we have been seeing a number of the residential component occurring for applications within a PDD mechanism when the normal set-asides that would happen under a residential subdivision are not occurring.
Okay. Any comments, questions, or concerns for Mr. Harbinson from the commission or staff? Okay. If not, thank you, Mr. Harbinson, for sharing your thoughts with us this evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
you.
All right, so wrapping up our meeting, next line item was minutes available for review, but there are none because we're going to have the last two sets of minutes now for approval. Does anybody have any comments or changes for the November 17th minutes? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the November 17th minutes as submitted?
I'll make a motion to approve,
I
Commissioner
make
Lasko.
motion.
Okay, so that was Commissioner Laskos?
Yes.
Okay, and who was the second? Did somebody else?
I'll second.
Okay, that was Commissioner Mato seconding.
Commissioner Matto.
Okay. Okay, so on the motion to approve made by Commissioner Laskos and seconded by Commissioner Mato, Commissioner Parkins?
I will abstain. I was not present.
Okay, and Commissioner Kelly?
Approved.
You're aye. Commissioner
Yep,
Mato?
aye.
Commissioner Mato?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki?
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos?
Aye.
Okay, and the chair also will abstain as I was not in attendance at that meeting, except for the first like 6 minutes. So motion to approve November 17th is approved by a vote of 4-0-2. All right, next, anybody have any comments or changes for the December 14th minutes? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the December 14th minutes as submitted?
Commissioner Parkins will make that motion.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Lasko, I'll second.
Okay, so on the motion to approve the December 14th minutes as submitted from Commissioner Parkins and seconded by Commissioner Laskos, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Kelly,
I will abstain. I wasn't present.
okay, and Commissioner Tiki,
I will abstain. I wasn't present.
all right, Commissioner Mato,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, and again, the vote is approved by a vote of 4-0-2. All right. Thank you everyone for hanging in there this evening. This was one of the longest meetings that we've had in a long time, but there was a lot to discuss. I think we had a very productive and fruitful meeting. So I want to thank you for that. And seeing that there's no other item on the agenda, Chair declares this evening meeting is adjourned as of 8:44 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Stay warm.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.